So good morning, everyone. We will begin with the opening recitations.
好，我们现在一起来进行今天的晚课。
Dewa dan ten tung yao dan zhe ne zhe la na me pa yang dan par zo be chan chu rin po che to par je da la tang wa je be zhe no par je be ge tar pa dan tam je ken be bar du jo pra je pa tam je ge se je be ma nong ka da nyam pe san chen tam je de wa dan ten tung yao dan zhe ne zhe la na me pa yang Dobra zobe janju rinpo je dobra je da la thawa jebe ja nobar jebe ge tarba da tam je kembe baridu jobra jeba tam je ge se jebe ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen jen tam je dewa dan ten dung ya dan de ne de la na me pa ya tabra de je de sama ge bar de longa yusum ge wa la go ma shi bar de longa yusum ge wa la go de de ne sun te ne ma chan da sam ji bar de longa yusum Gewa so je jodan so ge jonam chan chu bar de dan ne kyap su je da ge jun so ge be so nang ge Dala pencher sanje drupra shu sanje jodan so je jonam la chan chu bar de dan ne kyap su je da ge jun so ge be so nang ge Dala pencher sanje drupra shu sanje jodan so ge jonam la chan chu bar de dan ne kyap su je Dage jenso gebe sanang ke drala penche sanje drupra shu manang kadang nyambe senche tam che dewa dang dewe kyudang tampra kyuchi dunga dang dunga ki kyudang drewa kyuchi dunga me pe dewa dang me drewa kyuchi neding chadang nidang drewa tang nyang la na pra kyuchi manang kadang nyang pe senchen tam che dewa dang dewe kyudang tampra kyuchi dunga dang dunga ki kyudang drewa kyuchi dunga me pe dewa dang me drewa kyuchi neding chadang nidang drewa Dang nyong la na pra kyu je ma na ka dang nyam pe sen chen tam je de wa da de we gen dan dem pra kyu je dung yao dang dung yao ki kyu dang dra wa kyu je dung yao me pe de wa dang me dra wa kyu je ne ring cha dang ni dang dra we tang nyong la na pra kyu je And now the seven branched puja in the different languages, in the different audio rooms.
现在是七世供养的祈祷文。所有十方世界中，三世一切人师子，我以清净身语意，
worlds of
一
the
切
ten
遍礼尽
directions reside Tathagatas of the three times. Before each of you, lions among humans, I prostrate joyfully with body, speech, and mind by the power
我
of
咸
this
行愿威神
aspiration
力，
to
普现一
noble
切如
deeds.
来
All
前，
conquerors
一
appear
生复
vividly
现
in
刹
my
神身，
mind
一
with
一
as
遍
many
礼
bodies
刹手
as there
佛。
are atoms in all lands. I prostrate to all you conquerors in each
于
atom
一
of
城中
Buddha's
成数
numerous
佛，各处菩萨众会中，无尽法
atoms,
界成
all
亦
in the
然，
midst of
深
the
信
airs
诸
of the
佛皆
Buddhas.
充满。
Thus I conceive of this Dharma Dhatu as completely filled with you conquerors in this way.
各以
with
一切音
infinite
声喊，
oceans of
谱出以
praise and
无
oceans
尽
of
妙言
diverse
辞，
melodies.
尽于未
I
来
sing
一
the
切
excellent
劫，赞
qualities
佛
of
甚
all you
深功德海。
conquerors and praise all of you gone to bliss. With the best flowers and
以
best
诸最胜
garlands,
妙法
best music,
妙华
ointments,
曼
and
器
excellent
乐主
parasols,
涂香及伞
finest
盖，
lamps and
如
superior
是最胜
incense
庄
I
严
offer
具，
to
我以
you
供养诸如来。
conquerors. With
最
excellent
胜衣
garments
服，
and
最
best
胜香末
fragrances and
香烧香与
sandalwood
灯烛，
powder heap
一
high
皆
as
如
Mount
妙高
Meru.
具，我悉
All
供养
wondrous
诸如
offerings
来。
perfectly arranged I offer to you conquerors.
我以
These
广大
vast
圣
and
洁
unequal
心，深
offerings
信
to
一
each and
切
every
三
one
世
of
佛，
you
悉以
conquerors.
普贤
With the
行愿
power
力，
of
普
conviction
遍
and
供
noble
养
deeds
诸
I
如
prostrate
来。
and offer to all you conquerors. All the
我
harmful
昔
deeds
所
that I
造
have
诸恶
done
业，
with my
皆有
body,
如是
speech,
贪嗔
and
痴，
mind.
从生
Under
于
the
意
power
思所
of
生，
desire,
一切
hatred,
无
and
尽，皆忏悔。
ignorance, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in all
十
meritorious
方一
deeds
切诸
of all
众生，
conquerors in the
恶
ten
圣有
directions
学
and
及
the
无
heirs of
学，
the
一切如
Buddhas.
来与菩萨所有
Solitary
功德，皆随
realizers
喜。
here are still in training and beyond and all wandering beings.
十方
You
所
who are
有世
lamps
间
of
灯，
the
最初
walls
成
of
就
the
菩
ten
提者，我
directions,
今
who
一
have
切皆劝请，
unobstructedly
转于
attained
无上
Buddhahood
妙法门。
through the stages of Bodhi.
诸
All
佛
you
若
who are
欲
my
是涅
protectors,
槃，我悉
please
至
turn the
诚而劝
unexcelled
请。
wheel
我
of
愿久住
Dharma.
刹尘
With
劫，
palms
地乐一切
together, I
诸众生。
earnestly beseech you who may intend to manifest final nirvana. Please remain for as many eons as there are atoms in the world, for the
所有礼
happiness and
真供
well-being
养
of all
佛，请
wandering
佛注释
beings.
转法
Whatever
轮，
slight
随
virtue that
喜
may have
忏
been
悔诸善
gathered
根，
through
回向众
prostrating,
生及
offering,
佛道。
confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. So good morning and good evening to everyone. So today is, according to the Tibetan calendar, it's a very special day. First of all, it's the full moon day of the sixth month in the Tibetan calendar. So this full moon day of the sixth month has a few significances. So the most important significance is that it is said that on this day, the future Buddha, as a 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva, entered the womb of his mother, Queen Maya, on this day. So this is one significance of today. Then second significance, then due to that interdependence, also, I don't know how long it has been done this way, but this is also usually the day that the Tibetan monastic communities would formally enter into the Vasa retreat, what is known as the rainy season. They live in central Indian plains, and so monsoon rains are very strong. So then, due to those seasonal changes, the Buddha instituted a 3 months entering into the rains retreat, the Vasa. These days in the Tibetan tradition, the Varsa in Sanskrit, or Yarine in Tibetan, is done for 45 days. So, in fact, in Tibet, there's no rainy season in particular. So anyway, the second significance is it's the day where the monastic community enter into this Varsa.
Excuse me, Dr. Lai. So the rain season is how many days in Tibetan calendar? Hello. Dr. Lai。好，今天是一个非常特别的日子，这是就根据藏历来说，这个是6月的元月日，然后有几个重要的特征，然后在这一天基本上是就是未来佛作为十地菩萨进入就是玛雅王后的就子宫的日子，然后在
Are you here?
Yes.
Waiting is asking something in the English room.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me go to the English room. I'm not there. Yes. Sorry, waiting. Go ahead.
Dr. Lai, just now you say how many days for Vasa?
In the Tibetan tradition, now it's 45 days instead of 90 days, the Vasa.
Thank you. 然后第二个重要性就是说，那根据
That's also the same, I think, in the Chinese tradition, also 45 days. Some still do 3 months, but 45 days.
然后就是在这一天，也是西藏的僧团会进入就是雨安居的日子，因为在古印度的时候，这个时期是就是雨季，然后所以当时候佛陀就设立了这样的一个制度，然后就是会有3个月的雨安居，让僧人可以安住在某个地方去进修。那今年就是在藏历来说，这个雨安居是45天，然后就大乘佛教也是相同的。
Finally, another significance of this day is that it also commemorates the parinirvana, the Mahaparinirvana of Gampopa, one of what is known as Dakpo-Kagyu. So you could say that basically today when we say Kagyu, we mean Dakpo-Kagyu. And in fact, Dakpo-Kagyu is named after Gampopa, who is known by the area they come from, Dakpo. So Dakpo-Kagyu. So today is also the Mahaparinirvana of Gampopa. So I want to take this opportunity to share with you this translation of a praise that Kyopa Jigten, founder of Dribung Kagyu, wrote of Gampopa. So either Javier or Omar, if you can share in the chat of Zoom this document, this on my Facebook page, this praise. Unfortunately, we only have this translation in English. So if we have skilled translators who want to attempt to translate this into Spanish and Chinese, I greatly rejoice in that. Hint, hint.
好，今天除了上述的2个重要性以外，今天也是纪念是冈波巴大师的涅槃日。然后冈波巴大师是就达波噶举的创始人。然后今天我们所称的噶举其实就是以他为名的。然后李博士李博士是希望趁这个机会可以跟大家分享一个赞颂，由副主人波切所撰述的，针对冈波巴大师所撰述的这个赞颂。然后但是现在只有英文的翻译而已。而现在就是荧幕上将会放这个档。
So this praise was written by Kyopa Jigten Sumgun It's called In Praise of Glorious Gampopa, the Precious Dharma King. And so let me read through this one. Enables us to realize mind as Dharmakaya Buddha, which is difficult to find even across infinite eons. Your name, O Supreme Guru, is not easily heard. In this world obscured by darkness of ignorance, you clearly illuminate the very mind itself with the luminous wisdom of the sun mandala. Your name, O Sublime Guru, is not easily heard. For beings who are drowning in the ocean of suffering, you awaken into Buddhahood with overwhelming compassion. And for as long as samsara exists, you ripen all wandering beings with the inexhaustible wheel. Oh, how your name is not easily heard. You, the one known as Chandra Prabha, are the holder of the treasury of the teachings, the chief heir of the protector of the world, the king of Shakyas. Your name, O precious Guru, is not easily heard. The source of happiness in samsara and nirvana, the sage's teachings, are profound, peaceful, and free of complexity. Your name, which is the victory banner in the battle against mistaken understanding and conceptual complexities, is not easily heard. The supreme essence of the Bhagavan's teachings is the precious Vajra vehicle of secret mantra. You teach its meaning and recognize the damage caused by misunderstanding. Oh, your name is not easily heard. To lay things out in brief, the precious Guru, the Dharmakaya, ripens all wandering beings through the inexhaustible wheel of his exalted body, speech, and mind. The precious Guru's name is exceedingly difficult to hear. I, a meditator from the Kura clan, make supplications with faith and devotion to you, chief spiritual heir. Consider me with your exalted wisdom mind and keep me in your heart. This completes In Praise of Glorious Gampopa, the precious king of Dharma, which was arranged as merely a partial outline. So at the end, Khyupa Rinpoche says, this is just a very brief summary of the qualities, a brief outline of the qualities of Gampopa. And so it clearly in this praise, every verse ends with, your name is hard to even come across. So when we read this, we should then read how many people have heard the name Gampopa, and then how many people have encountered Gampopa's teachings compared to all the beings that exist in the world. Very rare. So then when we see this, we understand this, we are reminded this. So of course, you should be joyful. We get distracted and therefore disturbed by all the things that are basically meaningless. Then we forget like the really precious things, So in a way, this praise is reminding us. In fact, not even Gampopa himself. None of this is a personality cult. In fact, here, even the explicit name of Gampopa isn't quite used. There is a Sanskrit name given, and this Sanskrit name is the name of a bodhisattva, which Gampopa is said to be the reincarnation of Chandra Prabha, who is one of the main bodhisattvas mentioned in the Samadhi Raja Sutra. So the point is not even Gampopa. The point is Gampopa eliminated the path to awakening, re-illuminated that. And so Gampopa is the Dharmakaya Guru. The essence of mind Guru. And how fortunate we are to have met this Guru, so to say.
在这一个就赞颂里面，其实最后就护主仁波切也只是说，那这是一个简单的一个摘要，是针对冈波巴大师的特质。然后其实我们可以看到，能够听到冈波巴大师的名字、名号，或者是甚至读到他的教法，我们可以想想，到底这个世界上有多少人？当我们发现我们有这样的一个因缘，可以接触到冈波巴大师的这样的一种法义，我们应该感到非常的愉悦，非常的高兴。我们常常被很多的事情所困扰，然后转移了我们的注意力，而其实那一些东西全部都是没有任何意义的，而我们往往就忘记了真正有价值的东西。而现在这一个文中就会提到说，其实冈波巴大师他的梵语名字是取自一位菩萨的名字，那这个菩萨名字是 Chandraprabha， 也就是月光菩萨。然后这位月光菩萨的他是在三摩地王经里面最主要的一位菩萨。然后在这边就这一整个赞颂，它最主要的一个内容是说，冈波巴大师就是指示了这一个往觉悟之道。然后所以冈波巴大师本身是一个就法身是这个根本就新的上师的一个精华，所以我们非常的幸运能够遇到这一位上师。
On this occasion, I also want to take the opportunity to share with you another translation. So either Javier or Omar, if you have it, can you share on the chat? This is called the Lion's Fountain, a regular practice for taking the bodhicitta vow. So this is a short practice composed by His Holiness Dugong Kyabgon Tinle Lundup, the current Kyabgon Chesang Rinpoche. I completed this translation, so there's probably mistakes, but as I often say, I know just enough Tibetan to get into trouble. Don't know enough Tibetan to be 100% useful when it comes to translating things. Translation actually on the day of His Holiness's birthday, which also coincided with the day that the Buddha first turned the wheel of Dharma according to the Tibetan tradition. And this is called the Lion's Fountain, a regular practice for taking the bodhicitta vow. So this practice can be done on a regular basis, as much as you want. The Lion's Fountain, Senge Kaba Ma, the place that His Holiness put together this text. This text, His Holiness composed it based on an older and longer text by Dugong Dharma Kirti, the first Chungzang Rinpoche, who lived in the 17th century, who wrote a very kind of longer, much longer bodhicitta vow practice. Then Holiness extracted that and made this into one that can be done. I guess who say we're busy, can't do very long practices. So this is a very concise but complete practice. So I want to share with you. So we will also share in the chat. Again, right now we only have the English translation of this practice. So maybe at some point, the causes and conditions come together for this to be in Spanish, in Chinese, and whatever language is needed.
李博士想要借这个机会跟大家分享另外一篇的译文，这篇译文是由就是子贡法王所撰述的一个简短的针对菩萨戒的这样的一个修持的译文，然后这个是在法王生日，也就是刚好是初转法轮日的时候。然后分享，然后法王就是根据第一任的冲上仁波切曾经撰述过相对比较长的一个菩萨戒的修持，然后从中摘录出来，成为目前这个相对比较短，但是人人都可以修持的一个修持文献，修持的短文，然后它虽然短，但是是一个非常完整的修持。然后就目前这一篇只有英文的译本，然后希望将来因缘成熟的话，会有其他语言的译本。
So just to briefly go over this text, so here it says. Let's scroll down. It says for performing the regular practice of the daily ritual of taking bodhicitta vow by ordinary beings. There are three parts to this practice. So like any like properly and Fungan taught that four causes brought together in order for us to properly give rise to bodhicitta. So the preparation part is the practice. The
Hello, Dr. Lai. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Just now, I have some interruption from my internet. Can you repeat again?
What did you hear or not hear? So I know how much to repeat.
I just heard from daily ritual for bodhisattva, bodhicitta wealth, and then I missed the rest of it.
Sure. Yeah. So for this practice, there are four. Kyobajik and Sumgun taught that there are four elements, four conditions that need to be brought together in order for the effective giving rise of bodhicitta. And so in the preparation part, you cultivate these four things. You need to go back to the Chinese room.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. 这个修持基本上就是有4个重点，4个因素是我们需要培养以便能够有效的升起菩提心。那在整个前行的部分，我们就是要去落实这4个部分。
So the first one in this text, it says The first cause is generating the perception of the Guru as a real Buddha. So here is saying that from the person from whom you receive this vow, the person who serves as a witness, as someone who gives you this vow, you want to see this person as the Buddha himself. So this is to stabilize our faith and confidence that, this is like we are in the presence of the Buddha himself, and we're taking this vow, this most important of vows and commitments, directly from the Buddha himself. So then in this practice, it describes, it says, in the sky in front of me on the lion's throne is the Guru, who is the Bhagavan, meaning Buddha, and more specifically in the form of Buddha Shakyamuni. So the usual description of him, right hand touches the earth, left hand in meditation posture. So he's dressed in the 3 Dharma robes. Then it said that he's surrounded by the 8 great bodhisattvas, here called the close sons. That means his most closest disciples, which is the 8 great bodhisattvas. And then, of course, all the Idam deities, Dakinis, Dharmapalas, all gathered together. In other words, the whole the field of refuge is present. And who are you taking this from? You're taking this from Buddha Shakyamuni, who is your root guru, Buddha Shakyamuni.
那首先第一个要素就是说，我们要升起就是这样的一种观想，然后就能够观想这一个授予我们菩萨戒的这一位师长为佛。那就是说，其实这个是让我们就如同在佛座前，然后直接从佛，然后从佛处，然后受持这样的一个菩萨戒。然后当然佛的这个形象最主要是以释迦牟尼佛的这样的一个形象，也就是传统说的，就右手就触地印，然后左手就是属于一个禅修的一个状态，然后就有8大菩萨围绕，然后当然还包括其他的就是本尊，然后还有就护法之类的，就是所有的整个皈依境都出现，所以我们是直接从佛释迦牟尼佛我们的根本上师处受持这一个菩萨戒。
Then second cause is the gathering of the 2 accumulations, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom.
然后第二个要素就是集合2大的资粮，也就是我们的福德资粮和智慧资粮。
So the accumulation of merit in the text here on page 3 is done in a very brief way, which is the verse 12 of the 7-branch puja that we chanted at the beginning of class today, which is this one that says, whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered. So this is like a concise, through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, beseeching, and dedicating. And these are the 7 branches. So that is the very concise and brief way to do the first of the 2 accumulations.
然后我们的福德资粮是怎么累积的呢？就是以这个12季的这个7支供养。那目前就是现在我们所看到的这个浓缩版的这一季，然后就是当我们持诵了这一句的话，其实我们就完成了这一个累积福德资粮的这个部分。
In the notes here, it says, if you wish, you can recite the long form of this 7-branch puja, which is the one that we did, the long form. And also a special 7-fold puja that Jigten Sumgön composed, known as the Sarkangma. So in the notes here, it says you can do either of those, to add those. So in the longer practice, it says that So you recite, so you can recite the short one many times also, like 7 times. And each time, right, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. When you reach that line, if you have like flower petals, you offer to the shrine, kind of throw, like joyously throw, not like throw disrespectfully, throw in the air, as an offering joyously. You throw, and then you recite 7 times, and you throw the flowers again, and you recite 7 times, you throw the flowers again, like that.
然后就是根据就注释上说，它其实你可以就是选择词诵长，就比较长的那个经文，然后又或者是就是一个比较特别版本的这个七支供养叫是康嘛，然后如果是在就比较长的一个修持的话，那你也可以选择持诵短的，但是非常非常多次，就是每7次。然后如果你坐前，然后有那个花瓣，然后就把花瓣就抛到就是在佛座前的虚空中，然后非常愉悦的就散花，然后再持诵7次，然后再持续的散花，然后重复很多次。
Then the second part to this accumulation is the accumulation of wisdom. So then it says here in the note, rest for a few moments in the non-conceptual mind in a state of equipoise. That means, evenly settle into this meditative state where you remain present. So here, of course, there are many levels of practicing this. Rest in a state of meditative equipoise for a few moments.
然后第二个部分就是那个福的所谓资粮的部分，我们怎么累积呢？我们就是安住在这个无念头的心上面，就是维持觉知的当下，然后进入一个安定禅修安定的状态。
Then the third cause is to cultivate on page 4. The 4 immeasurable minds.
然后第三个
kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity.
第三个要素就是去培养4无量心，也就是慈无量心、悲无量心、喜无量心、舍无量心。
So this particular recitation you can do many times, but the thing is not to just blah, blah, blah repeat, The purpose of repeating those words many times is so that at the end of this on page, so look at page 5, scroll. It says, thus cultivate infusing one's being thoroughly with this, infusing your whole mind, your heart and mind completely with these 4 immeasurables. So the 4 immeasurables are the third cause that is necessary to bring together.
第三个刚刚说就是培养这个4无量心，然后这个修持这个部分可以重复做很多次这样的一个持诵，但是之所以持诵很多次，它最主要的一个目的是为了让我们的全心整个身心都能够就渗透，就是这个4无量心可以完全渗透我们的心，我们整个心。
Then the fourth cause, yeah? The fourth cause is what's the extraordinary refuge.
第4个要素则是一个特殊的皈依。
And this verse is taken from Bodhicaryavatara. Until I attain the heart of Bodhi, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of Bodhisattvas. So this is called the Extraordinary Refuge. And what they mean by Extraordinary Refuge, I don't know if you remember, we talked about this briefly, is that it's said that the ordinary way of taking refuge is to take refuge from now until the end of this life. But this one is you take refuge from now until you attain the heart of Bodhi, meaning until you achieve enlightenment. From lifetime to lifetime, you will take refuge. Now, of course, you say, well, I remember. Don't worry about these things. The point here is to magnify your aspiration and say, from now until I achieve Buddha, I will always take refuge. So this is extraordinary in that sense, in the sense that you are courageous, you are ambitious, you think big. That's the idea here.
这个书上的皈依是什么意思？就是说，一般上就是普通的皈依是说我这一辈子，当我皈依，我就到这一辈子结束为止。但是书上的皈依表示是说，我会持续不断的去受持皈依，直至我证得圆满的佛果位为止。那关键是不是我记不记得，就未来可能来世我记不记得这一件事情，而是我为什么这么做，是要充分的扩大我的愿心，然后我持续的去皈依，我持续的有勇气，很向往，然后充满了就是热忱的去圆满这一个皈依。
And also then, the other extraordinary is like we take refuge in Buddhas. Here it doesn't mean just one Buddha, just Buddha Shakyamuni. Or just thinking, oh, I take refuge in Buddha, meaning that I respect, Gautama Buddha, I admire him. Here, in this way of taking refuge is saying, just admiring, just respecting is not enough. That you want to become Buddha yourself. You want to actualize the Dharma in your mind so that your mind is revealed as Dharmakaya itself. And to do that, you will follow the example of the Bodhisattvas.
然后在这边，另外一层关于特殊这个意涵是说，我不只是皈依释迦牟尼佛而已。一般上我们就是礼敬，然后就是敬仰释迦牟尼佛。但是所谓的殊胜，是表示说，我不仅敬仰，我自己也发愿，自己要成就佛果位。我要让我的心能够充分的实证法身。然后依循就是诸佛菩萨的行止，完成这样的一个愿心。
So this is the extraordinary refuge. So these are the four causes, according to Kyobajik and Sumgun. Then now we come to the main part of the practice, the next page. And so then this two verses also from Bodhicaryavatara. Basically, the refuge verse is verse 26 of chapter 3. Then the taking of the vow itself is verse 27 and 28 of chapter 3. So here it says, just as all Buddhas of the past have brought forth Bodhi mind and progressively observe and train in the precepts of Bodhisattvas, likewise for the benefit of wandering beings, I give rise to bodhicitta, and in those precepts I will observe and train myself progressively. So here both aspiration and application bodhicitta combined together as one, taken together simultaneously, which is said to be the tradition of taking the bodhisattva vow or the bodhicitta vow according to this is known as the profound view tradition of taking the bodhicitta vow. The alternative tradition of taking bodhicitta vow is the vast conduct lineage, which is Maitreya. This is Manjushri's tradition. Maitreya's tradition, it is said that you take the aspiration and application bodhicitta vow separately. In this one, they're combined together. And so the formula given by Shantideva is the one here.
那接下来眼前的这一个寄送，它基本上就是我们的正行，就是受持菩萨戒的正行。这一个都是从就是入菩萨行论里面抽取出来的，就是第3章的第26偈、27偈、28偈，然后这一边是结合了愿菩提心和行菩提心的部分，然后所以这一个就是这一季基本上它是根据身见的这一个传统，就是身见菩萨戒、受持菩萨戒的这一个传统所占取的。那相对于这个身见的这个传统一般上就是弥勒菩萨的那个广行的传统，就是把愿菩提心和行菩提心是分开来受持的。
So sorry, I gave the wrong. So the extraordinary refuge is from chapter 2 of Bodhicaryavatara, verse 26. Chapter 2, verse 26, the chapter on confession. Then the taking of the bodhicitta vow together, both aspiration and application, that is verse 23 and 24 of chapter 3.
这边有一个纠正，就是说刚刚提到的殊胜的这个皈依，这一季是从入菩萨行论里面第2品，然后第26偈，也就是在忏悔品里面第26偈的偈颂所抽取出来的。然后在正行里面的这个受持菩萨戒，则是从第3章，然后第23、24偈所抽取出来的。
So on page 7, it says, "Thus be clear about the words and their meaning, and be inspired and convinced that one has obtained the bodhicitta vow in one's being." So you repeat that section, again from the heart, as many times as you want. Then especially when you have said it enough times, then you have to have the confidence, the understanding, okay, now I have given rise to the bodhicitta vow. Then the last part is the conclusion part, the third part. And this third part, what comes up is also from Bodhicaryavatara, which is verse 26, 27. Verse 26 and 27 comes up next, and of chapter 3 of Bodhicaryavatara.
那接下来就是第3个部分是结行的部分，在结行的内容也是从入菩萨行论的第3章，然后第26偈、27偈所抽取出来
的。So verse 26, starting on page 7 of our practice text, it says, "Now my life has become fruitful. This human state has been well attained. Today I am born into the Buddha's line. I have become the Buddha's heir." So here you should cultivate joy in yourself. It is said that it's not enough to just do virtuous things, then especially such a virtuous thing as generating bodhicitta. After doing something virtuous, the rejoicing mind, the joyful mind has to be there. If you do something virtuous and then you regret, oh, that's actually very harmful. Or if you do virtuous things without awareness, then not very beneficial actually. because it's not having an impact in your mind. So this is to cultivate joy. Then the second is promising not to forsake the line. That means don't shame this family that you have been born into, which is the Buddha's family. So it says here, this is verse 27 from Bodhicaryavatara Chapter 3. It says, from now on, I will in every way undertake the actions befitting this line. I will not be a stain on this faultless noble line.
这个结行的部分就是说，那第26偈是说，当我们持诵了这一偈之后，就是相对于第3章第26偈，然后就说现在我已经就是升到佛家族的这个行列。当我们持诵了这个之后，我们必须，因为我们在做这一个善行，所以我们必须要由衷的升起喜悦的心。然后如果我们做了善行，但是我们事后后悔的话，那其实带来的过患是非常大的。但是如果我们做了善行而却没有一个清楚的觉知，那它本身也没有什么益处。那这个之后，然后接下来的那一集27集就是说，我就是下定决心不会让这个佛陀的家族蒙羞，所以下了这样的一个誓愿。
Then page 8 is the third part of the third part of the third part, right? The third part of the conclusion part is finally the last verse on chapter 3 of Bodhicaryavatara, to cause joy in others. So it says here, today in the presence of all the protectors, I invite wandering beings to the Buddha state. Until then, to every ease and joy. That means now you say to all beings, like you declare to them, I will now work for your ultimate happiness. And until that happens, I will also do what I can for your death.
然后接下来就是第8页这一边，然后是属于结行的第3个部分。然后第3个部分这一个内容是取自就《入菩萨行论》第3章，然后最后一偈，然后就是说去让他人也升起愉悦的心，就是在诸护法面前，然后对一切大众就是称述。我现在发愿要为了你们的利益，我要去成就这个佛果位，然后去引起他人的这个喜悦的心。
When we have this big purpose, when we have this great purpose, then we are not so easily distracted by minor problems, inconveniences that turn up on a day-to-day basis. All those things pale in comparison to this big project.
当我们拥有一个大的目标、大的意义要去追寻的时候，我们就不会轻易的就被生活中的诸多琐碎的事情所困扰，或者是被它蒙蔽。因为在这个大的意义的行止
People yell at us, people give us a hard time, things don't go our way, we're like, that's okay, those are little things.
在这个大的目标面前，其他一切都相形失色。
It says here in the notes, thus clearly understand these words and their meaning, blending them with your own being, with your mind, by chanting and cultivating them. Chant the words, cultivate the meaning.
就在注释里面就是说，我们不断的去持诵，并且将这样的一个意义培养出来，就是我们对这个意义的理解，逐渐的去培养出来。
So it says here, this was adapted from Drigongdam Kirti's oral advice, the Shelong, the notes at the bottom. Then more information. This practice was composed by Gonjo Tenzin Kunzang Trinle Lundrup. This is His Holiness's name, the one blessed with the title Gyawa Drigongpa, on the 23rd day of the 8th month of the water dog year, near Lion's Fountain, Sengye Kabab River, in the lower Hanu, which is in Adak.
就是这个短文最后，然后就是提到说，这个是由Goncho Tenzin Kunzang Trinle Lundrup 就是法王所撰述的，然后是在就是水狗年，然后8月23日，然后所撰述的，然后是在拉达附近的 Lower Hanu 这个地方，就是 Lion Fountain。
Sengye Kabab Lion's Fountain is the name of the source of a major river in India called the Indus River. Indus River. In fact, the word Hindu come from the name of this river, Indus.
然后这一个Lion Fountain Sengye Kabab
So in
这个
Chinese, you know, Indu. Indu is this name come from this river, Indus.
这一条河基本上就是印度河，就是印度最大的河。
So this is briefly this practice. It's a beautiful practice, you know, short, meaningful. So I encourage you to practice this when you have time, alongside our study of Bodhicaryavatara. So let's see if there are any questions or comments about this practice.
这是非常优美而且有意义的一个修辞。然后李博士鼓励大家在我们修习入菩萨行论之余，也可以好好的去修持这一个短文。我看看大家有没有什么问题？
Then some of you maybe have question, you know, because you know these practices. So at the end there, then the refuge field right in front, Buddha Shakyamuni, who is the one giving you this, transmitting this bodhicitta vow to you, in whose presence you have taken the vow. All of that, you know, with the 8 great bodhisattvas, all the objects of refuge, they dissolve into light, and they fuse into you, dissolve into you. Then you can meditate again on both wisdom and compassion, the 2 aspects of the awakened state. So what that means is you remain, your mind, free from attachment, free from grasping, but not a blank kind of free from attachment of grasping. Simultaneously, on the one hand, free from attachment and grasping, the wisdom side, and at the same time, radiating love and compassion in all directions, which is the other side. So these are the 2 bodhicittas. Relative bodhicitta, love and compassion. Ultimate bodhicitta, wisdom.
就是当就是皈依境，就是那个皈依境现前的时候，也就是释迦牟尼佛在我们面前，然后授予我们这个菩萨戒，然后以及我们是在诸佛菩萨面前，就8大菩萨的座前，然后见证下受持的，然后这整个皈依境就会融入就是光，然后光也会融入到我们心中。那当融入到我们心中的时候，我们就是禅修，就维持一个让心安住在一个禅修的状态，然后就修习慈悲与智慧。那慈悲与智慧就是说，让这个心免于贪执 但是并不是一个脑袋空空如也这样的一个状态，而是让这个心非常的清楚，但是免于贪执，而同时也去就是让这一个去散播慈爱还有慈悲，然后所以这两者分别都是菩提心的两面，然后就是就是去散播慈爱这个部分是属于世俗菩提心的部分，然后这一个禅修就是智慧的这个层面则是圣意菩提心的部分。
Don't feel overwhelmed, by, there are so many different practices. And don't practice the different practices as, like different things. So in the Lojong 7 points, one of the lines there says, when all your practices, when all your Dharma practices, when all your spiritual endeavors converge, come together as a single point, then you know that you're making some progress. So what that means there is like, when we can see that no matter what practice we do, it is basically the practice of the two bodhicittas. Relative bodhicitta, which is about love and compassion. Ultimate bodhicitta, which is about wisdom. When we can begin to relate to all the practices, formal practices, informal practices, as different aspects of cultivating the two bodhicittas, sometimes it's breath meditation, sometimes it's explicitly bodhicitta meditation, sometimes it's deity yoga, sometimes it's making offerings, sometimes it's smoke off, there is like, covering with a lot of smoke, then too much smoke, now need to take a bath. If you can do all of it, and understand that they all converge into a single point, which is practicing the two bodhicittas, then I'm making some progress now. Then you don't need to oh, Lama, should I do this? Should I do that? What about this? What about that? Oh, I don't know. There's so many things to do. It is both very simple, but don't let it overwhelm.
大家不要感到非常的压力，然后觉得就是太多东西要学。其实在修行七义中就有这样的一个教法提到说，其实所有的修习，其实当我们懂得怎么去修习的时候，其实它都是会融合在某个点。如果当我们所学的一切，我们的懂得看到他们融合之处，然后就聚集在一个重点，这个重点就是去培养菩提心。培养菩提心分别就是培养圣意菩提心，还有世俗菩提心。那世俗菩提心就是去培养我们的慈悲与智慧，然后圣意菩提心则是去培养我们的那个世俗菩提心是去培养那个慈悲，然后圣意菩提心是去培养智慧。那在所有的修持里面，其实各式各样的，就是包括我们去供养，我们做上师瑜伽等等的这样的一种修持，其实都是各个不同样的层面来培养菩提心。如果我们能够让这一切的修持，任何我们所做的修持都能够融合到这一个培养菩提心的这一个点上，那实际上它就反映我们正在进步。所以我们就不需要再去就是请教我们的上师说，哦，我需要做这个吗？我应该怎么做这个之类的。其实就单纯的就好好的去修习这个菩提心。
Any questions about the practice?
关于这个修持，大家有什么问题吗？
Yes, I think May raised. Did you? You have to unmute yourself, and May, you have to unmute yourself.
I don't have a question,
Yes.
but I just have a comment. I really like that final verse the variant reading on instead of saying I establish all sentient beings in the state of Buddha, says I invite wandering beings to the Buddha state. I think that's just so beautiful.
Yeah. Shantideva, he says, I invite you, I welcome you, I call you to come. Yeah. If you are asking, if you're speaking, I cannot hear you, Antonio. Oh, okay. Yeah.
刚刚有一位同学就分享说，他觉得就刚刚的那一个短文，就短的修辞里面，他最后的一句寄颂非常的优美，就是说，我去邀请一切的众生来见证我发的这一个大的誓愿。
I don't get that. Just speak.
Then finally, coming back to
over there, but you stopped me.
Coming back to the life of the Buddha. So we say that today also commemorates, right, the Buddha's, the Bodhisattva, the 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva entering the womb of his future mother, whose name is Mahamaya. So there is some symbolism here that I want to briefly kind of introduce to you. So the Buddha's birth mother, her name is Mahamaya, which literally means great Maya. What is this word Maya? What does it mean? Maya has two meanings related. One meaning of Maya is illusion. So that meaning is, you could say, kind of a slightly negative meaning. Now, of course, when her parents name her, they don't mean that, calling her, illusion in a negative sense. Because Maya also has another meaning, same word, and it's the meaning of magical. Magical. Maya can also mean magical. And of course, it's magical based on the fact that it's illusory. So the great illusion, the great magic, right? Mahamaya. So when the Bodhisattva enters the womb of Mahamaya, so here is telling us, when we enter into Maya, or Mahamaya, you and I, we are entering into illusion leading to delusions. When the 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva enters into Mahamaya, it's to actualize the Buddha state. So that's reminding us again, happiness and suffering is not something outside. We are the ones that determine, depending on our how much confusion we have. If we are a 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva, then entering into Mahamaya is going into the great magic. As in, now you can magically teach sentient beings, you can magically display all kinds of miraculous things, magically benefit beings. But most of us, when we enter into Maya, it's illusion, confusion, delusion.
然后就是刚刚我们上面就提到关于就是今天也是十地菩萨进入他的就母亲，就生理的母亲，就是玛哈玛雅这一位王后的子宫内，然后那就林博士想要分享一下，就关于就是这一位母亲的 名号。然后 Mahamaya 基本上它表示的是大，Maya 有 Maha 是大的意思，然后 Maya 它有2个意思，第一个是幻象，然后这个幻象的这个概念其实相对的比较负面，但另外一个意思其实就是一个魔幻的魔术或者是一个魔幻，就因为幻象所以而魔幻，所以是一个大魔术大的魔幻力。所以当菩萨进入到这 Mahamaya 的子宫的时候，然后其实他就是要去实证这个佛果位。但是如果像我们这一些普通人，我们进入到就是母亲的子宫的话，其实我们就是进入到幻象，然后这个幻象在就是把我们带到就是一切的迷惑、一切的虚妄当中。所以其实快乐与痛苦它并不是属于外在的一切事物，而是在于我们本身的心是怎么样的一个状态。如果我们是一个实地菩萨的话，那当我们来到人间，就重新来到人间，其实我们是可以展现这个大的魔幻力，去让一切众生得到利益。但是如果我们本身没有这样的功夫，没有这样的一个理解，那引导我们的只是就是世间的幻象，然后我们的迷惑，我们的愚痴而已。
So we can now take a quick break, and when we come back, we will continue with Shantideva.
我们来先休息一会儿。
Om Vageshware
So now we return to Bodhicaryavatara. So we are in the midst of chapter 5, the chapter on vigilant introspection. Yeah? Vigilant introspection. Which is this kind of quality of mind, a skill where we are. There's a number of things going on here. One is to have mindfulness, but not the way that this word is used these days. Here, mindfulness means not forgetting what we should adopt, practice, what we should put down, leave alone, don't mess with. In other words, remembering what the Buddha prescribed as conducive to us becoming free from suffering, achieving happiness. And what the Buddha prescribed, meaning say, don't do the following things because they lead to suffering, they lead to dukkha. So first part of this vigilant introspection the topic of this chapter is not forgetting those prescription and proscriptions. First part. Second part is then to be able to bring that information, to be able to bring it into moment to moment, into our daily situations, so that when we go about our lives, we have both kind of like, and knowing how to apply in the situation, which is really what chapter 5 is telling us, the importance of cultivating these two sides, remembering what the Buddha taught and able to apply what was taught into whatever situation we find ourselves in.
好，我们现在就是在第5章，就正念正知这一部分。正念正知是什么样的一个概念呢？其实是一种技巧，然后它分别有2个重点。然后第一个重点就是说，我们要有一定的觉知，就对于当下的觉知。然后这种觉知不是现在所用，就是一般就是大家比较广泛听到的一种用法，而是说我们不忘记佛陀所教导的，说佛陀教导我们怎么样的因我们要去培养，以便能够证得快乐，然后怎么样的因我们要去去除，要去远离，以便能够脱离痛苦。我们要去记得佛陀的教导。然后第2个层面则是说，我们怎么把这样的一个讯息应用在我们的日常生活中。
So in this section, Shantideva shows us how, where does suffering come from? Suffering comes from the mind. And suffering takes place in the mind. Where does happiness come from? Happiness comes from the mind. Happiness takes place in the mind. So then in this section, from verses 9 to 17, he's focused on showing how when we talk about practicing the 6 paramitas of bodhisattvas, which is the ultimate, right, causes, the ultimate causes of ultimate happiness is the cultivating the 6 paramitas. Then here what he's showing us is, in terms of cultivating the 6 paramitas, they are all actually about cultivating the mind. And so we have looked at how he said, dana paramita, practicing giving, practicing generosity, is about purifying and removing any and all stinginess, close heart, poverty mind, like poor mind, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I cannot share, it's about removing all of that, and that is dana paramita, right? We talk quite a bit about that. Then verse 11, it's about shila paramita, discipline. He says there, the essence is to develop a state of mind, through support from speech and physical actions, but ultimately it's to train the mind so that the mind is more and more free from wanting to cause harm. wanting to cause harm because we're not happy, wanting to cause harm because we are upset, wanting to cause harm because we're depressed. So Shila, he says, all the different precepts that the Buddha gave, whether it's a 5 lay precepts to the 8 precepts that you observe on certain days, to the 250 precepts of monks, all of those is to remove harm from our mind.
那在这个部分，就是说，吉天菩萨就是告诉我们，到底苦是从哪里来的？是从我们的心，而乐又是从哪里来的呢？也是从我们的心。所以从第9到第17期，其实我们谈的就着重在培养6波罗蜜这一个为了证的究竟快乐的究竟因，然后就提到说，其实我们所谓的培养6度波罗蜜，其实就是要培养这一颗心。举例来说，就是我们培养这一个布施波罗蜜的话，其实我们就是要去清净去除一切的吝啬，然后这个心的贫困贫乏。然后第11季就关于戒波罗蜜，然后持戒波罗蜜的这一个核心，它的精华则是在培养一颗心，就是去究竟让这个心免于制造一切的伤害，不因为我们不高兴，不因为我们沮丧，不因为种种的原因而去制造伤害。哪怕从5戒，就基本的5戒到8戒，到就是僧人的250戒，其实这一切都是要引导我们去除心里面制造伤害的这样的一个倾向。
Then let's read 12, 13, 14. Harmful beings are everywhere like space itself.
12到第14
Impossible it is that all should be suppressed. But let this angry mind alone be overthrown, and it is as though all foes had been subdued. To cover all the earth with sheets of leather, where could such amounts of skin be found? But with the leather soles of just my shoes, it is as though I cover all the earth. And thus the outer course of things I myself cannot restrain, but let me just restrain my mind, and what is left to be restrained? So these are some of the, I feel, these 3 verses, especially the second verse, is some of the most precious things that Shantideva offers in this whole text. He says, so this is about the 3rd paramita, the paramita of what we call patience or forbearance. So I think the word patience, the way we use it, at least in English, it's like, what is the opposite of patience? We say, well, impatience. But here there's something more precise. This patience, or what we translate as patience, in Sanskrit is kashanti. It has more a sense of like to forbear, meaning that when something unpleasant turns up in our life, we don't immediately get upset and angry. Now, even anger, there are many different types, Anger is not just like, anger. A lot of us have very kind of hidden anger. So the point here is that whenever that which is undesirable turns up, and these undesirables might even be very noble in the worldly sense, like, oh, I'm so upset that people are destroying the world, that they're destroying the environment. So Even something like that. So this, first of all, we need to understand, it has nothing to do with whether your anger is justified or not. That is a different matter. We're talking about whenever we encounter things that disturb us, that we don't like. Look at how immediately we become angry. We become upset. Look at that first. Put aside. It's so easy for us to get all caught up in anger when we say, well, but this is justified. No. We're not saying that is not important, but put that aside first. Look at how anger has turned up. And particularly the practice of patience here, in the Bodhisattva path, the third paramita is to practice forbearance, to practice patience.
然后刚刚念的这个第
In
12
the
到
face of, unhappy, undesirable things turning up.
然后刚刚念的第12到第14偈是，就是吉天菩萨提供相对非常珍贵的奇迹，就在这个入菩萨行论里面，就是关于培养这个耐心、忍耐这样的一个主题。然后，那在英文来说 ，patience 它可能就是相对于就是能够忍耐跟不能忍耐。其实在这边，如果根据原文 Kshanti 来说的话，更准确来说，其实是一种能够去安忍。当一切当任何不愉悦的事情，让我们不高兴的事情出现的时候，我们不会当下就陷入愤怒，或者是当下就陷入沮丧这样的一种情绪当中。其实就是愤怒，它也会有非常多不同样的层面，然后很多时候我们其实是会有很多隐藏的一种愤怒。然后当任何我们感到不愉悦的事情发生的时候，哪怕它可能就表面上看起来是非常的高尚的，就譬如说我们很生气别人毁灭这个世界，很生气别人去摧毁这个环境。那首先这不是关于到底我们生气的理由它是不是正确或正当的，而是说这个我们要能够看到，当我们任何让我们感觉到不愉悦的事情发生的时候，我们自己的情绪怎么变化，看我们的愤怒是怎么升起的。然后那在这一切不愉悦的环境、不愉悦的条件升起的时候，我们要去休息安忍。
So Shantideva says in verse 12, harmful beings are everywhere, like space itself. Wherever there is space, there are harmful beings. So he says it's impossible to suppress them. That means, so not just about beings. It means like, things that we label as harmful, things that we label as undesirable, unpleasant, they are everywhere. And they will keep turning up. And there is no way to keep them from turning up. There is no way to suppress all of them. So he says, look closer and see what is the direct cause of harm. The direct cause of harm is our angry mind, is our impatient mind. It's the mind that says, I don't like this, I want to immediately get rid of this. Even so, very subtle, not necessarily anger the way we think of it, but basically immediately reject, immediately want to retaliate. He says, no, you work on restraining that. So verse 14, it says, so the outer course of things, there's no way I can restrain all of that. But what I can restrain is my mind. What I can restrain, what I can train, what I can do is how I'm going to respond. So it says, do that. So the chapter on patience, Shantideva will go into more details, helping us to process this, to work with this. Then verse 13 is this beautiful kind of analogy given, It says that this whole world, there are so many thorns and stones and harmful things. If you think, oh, the ground is filled with all these like broken glass, this and that, I want to make a carpet or leather to cover the whole earth so that wherever I walk, I will not get injured. He says, yeah, that project will never work. Because there's no end to this. Whereas if you are smart, if you are skillful, oh, I only need to get 2 small pieces of leather, right? And to cover my feet, make them into shoes. Then I can walk all over the earth and not be harmed. So restrain our own mind, train our own hearts. Then whatever harm, that we might encounter, we will not let that harm us.
就是我们从在第12偈中，我们可以看到吉天菩萨提醒我们说，其实所有可以具伤害性，无论是人还是物，其实到处都有，我们并没有办法去压制他们。任何我们所标签会造成我们感到不愉悦的一切，其实就是无处不在。那它不断都会升起，我们是没有任何法子去压抑他们的。但是仔细看，到底什么是伤害最直接的？其实是我们愤怒的心，这一颗不能够安忍的心。有时候它是非常微妙的，所以我们要就是可以看到自己内心的那一种冲动，就是当下就是去拒绝的那样的一个冲动。所以我们不是把专注力放在去压抑外在的一切事物，让不愉悦的事情不升起，而是我们调转过来，好好的去修持我们的心，去调整我们的心，去防治这一颗心。而在第14偈就是说，其实我们是没有任何方法去压抑外在的一切事物，我唯一能够做的就是去防护这一颗心，然后就是去调整我应该怎么去回应这个世界。那在第13偈就是一个非常优美的譬喻，就是说这整个大地，那就是有非常多的石子或者是破碎的那个玻璃，然后就会割伤我们的脚嘛。如果你说我要把整片大地都铺满了就是这个皮革的话，它基本上是不可能成功的，因为那是没有尽头的。那比较善巧的方式其实是我们拿2片的那个皮革，然后做成就是靴子或者是我们的鞋，然后就保护我们的脚，我们就哪都可以去。所以 以这样的方式，我们好好的去调整我们的心，去收摄我们的心，培养安忍的话，我们就不会让任何出现的伤害，就是会伤害到我们自己。
If you're watching on Facebook and you happen to stumble upon this, you might be wondering, like, why these periods of silence? And that's because we are having these translated in the Zoom platform. We have different audio channels for translation into Chinese and Spanish. And so that's why we are pausing. So I have suggested, in the beginning, like for those of us who only understand one language, during these periods of pause, you can either watch your mind, relax your mind, or go over, the verses as we have this moments of pausing. So verse 15 of chapter 5, it says, this verse has to do with the next paramita, the paramita of diligence. Diligence there is like a joyful state of mind that will further fuel or encourage, that will further add energy to you to commit to the work at hand, which is to achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of beings. So that's the definition of like diligence. It's basically a joyful state of mind that further inspires you to work for the benefit of beings. So verse 15, it says, a clear intent can fructify and bring us birth in such as Brahma's realm. It says that means, a clear state of mind that is loving, that is kind. This can bring us birth into Brahma's realm, these divine realms within this world.
第15偈是关于精进，也是一个愉悦的心的状态，是让我们不断，就鼓励我们，或者是启发我们，不断的去承诺更好、更快、更积极的去圆满，为了一切众生的利益圆满佛果位。那这一个就在经文偈颂中，我们可以看到，就是说这个是一个明定的一颗心，而这一颗明定的心，它是充满了爱。然后这样的心，它可以带我们就是证得梵天的果位。
So if we keep a clear mind of kindness, no matter what the circumstance, and not become dejected, discouraged, then it will produce those results accordingly. So verse 15 says, compared to actions of body and speech, they don't generate as powerful a result. So in the commentary on this, it says that there are examples given, like in the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. The Buddha gave the example of like a mother and child. They were, unfortunately, they were both carried down the river, drowning. Accidentally, they fell in the river and they're drowning. But even though, in these last moments, the mother had such love for the child that due to that love, even though they suffered a terrible and drowning, the mother and the child, because of their love for each other, they were born in the Brahma realm. They were born in this divine realm.
那在第15季后半季，就是说，就是相对于就是身和口所带来的影响，其实都不及心所带来的影响来得大。然后在注释里面就提到在，大涅槃经里边就提到这个有一对母子，然后非常不幸的就是在被河流然后就被河流冲刷的时候，然后就溺毙了。然后哪怕是在他最后的一刻，然后就是非常的辛苦，然后就非常的痛苦。但是基于彼此，就是这一对母子对彼此之间的爱，然后他们最后就是得以就重生到梵天界。
Sometimes we might say, oh, there's attachment, oh, that love, there's attachment is not good. Well, it's only not good compared to love that is without attachment. But love with attachment is still better than like anger. Neutral.
那有时候我们可能会就是指责说，哦，这样的爱其实是还是一种充满贪执的爱。当然，我们会觉得它不好，是当我们谈到它相对于没有贪执的爱，这一种有贪执的爱，当然相对来说比较不好。但是这种有贪执的爱却比愤怒来得更好。
But there are some, like spiritual practices or even like Buddhist approach to practice that is so worried and so afraid of attachment. Then they say better to just be neutral, better to just be like stoic, better to not love. If your love, there's going to be attachment. Here Shantideva is presenting a different way. He says, you don't have to fear attachment that much. See how, even mundane love. Now, of course, here we're not talking about the kind of love where you love someone for your own reasons and you want to control them. We're not talking about that kind of love. We're talking about genuine care about another person. And so in that sense, they can lead to rebirth in the higher godly realms of the Brahmas, which are these bright beings. So that's 15. 16 is about the cultivation of meditative concentration. And so here it says, recitations and austerities, so like reciting mantras, reciting prayers, and then austerities, I will only eat, 1 bowl of soup a day, I will only sleep, on the rock solid mind, and they will not produce much result. So a well-trained mind, a well-trained heart is at the gist of meditative concentration, the 5th paramita.
很多时候可能就是在一般的修行，就可能会有耳闻到说，非常多的着重就是非常担忧会 被贪执所束缚，所以都会会很大部分鼓励我们要比较中立，然后不要去就是陷入就是有染的爱中。但是在这一边，吉田菩萨他呈现的稍微有一些不一样，他就基本上是希望我们了解到说，不需要太过去担忧贪执这一件事情，就是哪怕是一些世俗的爱，如果它是一种真诚的关怀，其实也能够引领我们重生到就是像梵天这样的一个高阶的一种境界，新的一个境界。那第16偈这是关于禅定的一个修持，然后里面吉田菩萨会提到说，那无论是无论是透过就是词诵经典，或者是苦行，比如说就一天只吃一餐，或者是在外露宿，或者是不穿衣服之类这样的，其实都不能是真正能够很好的去培养这一个禅定的心，真正一个很好的修持的心，才是禅定的一个精神。
17. All those who fail to understand the secret of the mind, the greatest of all things, although they wish for joy and sorrow's end, will wander to no purpose uselessly. This is talking about the perfection of wisdom. And so here, Shantideva says, the perfection of wisdom is basically about understanding the nature of mind. So if we don't understand the nature of mind, then as much as we want to be free from suffering, we want to achieve happiness, it will not happen.
那第17偈则是关于吉田菩萨提醒我们，就关于智慧度，它真正的精神是去了解这一颗心的特质、心的本质，然后无论我们多想就脱离痛苦，多想得到快乐，如果我们没有办法了解心的本质的话，这一切都是妄谈。
And so in the next section, from verses 18 to 22, he is going to kind of say, therefore, understanding that mind is both the source of pain and suffering and the source of happiness and freedom from suffering, knowing that, therefore, guarding mind, training the mind is key.
如果我们真正想要就是求乐避苦的话，培养这一颗心，修习这一颗心，守护这一颗心，是它其中的精华，修行的精华。
So he says in 18, he says, therefore, we should protect this mind, this heart of ours. What's the point of having so many disciplines, so many practices? If we don't understand, we don't get it, that guarding and disciplining the mind is most important. It's very easy to get distracted or to be confused even about this. Like for example, maybe in Asia, so different cultural areas have different kind of confusions. So in Asia, I think especially like with Tibetan Buddhism, people think practice is chanting mantras. What do I chant? What do I chant? Which mantra? For everything, what is the mantra? What is the mantra? I said, well, how about try, 5 minutes, give up self-grasping. Much better. Not saying, mantras useless, but the purpose of mantras insofar as the Buddha teaching mantras, because there are also others who make use of mantras for different reasons. But when the Buddha does teach how to use mantras, it's for the purpose of cultivating the two bodhicittas. And the two bodhicittas here guard and discipline the mind.
那在第18季，吉田菩萨就提醒我们，我们要好好的去守护这一颗心，就是守护这颗心是最主要的。有时候我们会很容易就是混淆这一点啊，特别是譬如说在亚洲这样的一个文化，关于西藏佛教，可能很常会太过着重在持咒上面，然后不是说持咒不好，但是佛陀之所以教导持咒，其实是为了要引导我们去培养这两种菩提心，然后就是透过这两种菩提心来守护、来调伏我们的心。
So this is the beginning of this next section. So this is verse 18. So today we will stop here, but I want to leave maybe some time for you to any questions or comments, questions from past weeks, overall questions about, the lessons that we've been learning from Shantideva. So take a few moments to kind of think about it, and something you want to share or some question you have. Meanwhile, I want to point out, I don't know if you can see, there's a big bouquet of sunflowers here as an offering to the temple and to the shrine. Yesterday, I was at the farmer's market, and I go every Friday because a good friend, they sell cheese. So right next to them, there's a woman selling flowers. And at the end of market, she said to me, she identified herself. She said, I have been to the temple downtown and before the pandemic. And she said, has it reopened? I said, yeah, we have reopened. And she said, I always end up with a lot of flowers, that I don't sell. And they're all cut. And she said, is there a way I can give you flowers, to take to the temple? I said, yeah, sure. I said, but it might live a day or two in my house first, although some temple activities are functioning out of my house in terms of Zoom. And she said, oh, yeah, whatever you want to do is good. And so this is, the offering. So for all of you to also offer, to rejoice in all these beautiful sunflowers.
李博士刚刚提到，就是在他座位旁边，然后就有非常多的太阳花。这个是就是他每个星期五会去到就一个农民的市场，然后他有非常好的朋友就是在卖芝士。然后在那边有一位女人，她是卖花的，然后就曾经去过李博士所在的一个寺院，然后就想说提供就是这个花给寺院，所以李博士跟大家分享。
I just wanted to comment that when we're reviewing since 15, there was one in speech and of speech or less, and it has happened. I keep forgetting that the mind it could be separated from body. Maybe I can just start reciting mantras like you said, go over and over, but obviously my mind is somewhere else.
Yes.
I'm busy and doing things, but at least I'm chanting, and then I finish and I feel like, well, I did the speech part, and that's fine, but it's I don't know, it just, I know we were going over and over how important the mind, but that line, the act of body and of speech are less, just struck to me, and I just found it very, very helpful, at least for me.
Yes, right. Yeah, if you can hear, right, in the interpretation room? Yeah, so go ahead and translate that. Thank you.
刚刚有一位同学，然后就分享到说，就是我们刚刚提到的其中一偈，就是第15偈，就是说身口善重情，心若难成就。就是说，很多时候我们在持咒语的时候，可能纯粹就只是流于嘴皮上的功夫，而心并没有在里面。所以这一句其实是对他有非常大的一个提醒，就是说，我可能平时就是自己很勤啊，就是在持咒，但是如果心没有那个觉知，其实也会难成就。就对于就是一个非常对他是一个非常非常大的提醒。
So yeah, it's easy to forget, like what's most important is cultivating the mind. Now, of course, on the other hand, you could also say, something is better than nothing. So at least if your mouth is busy repeating mantras, you're not using it to tell lies or curse someone or, gossip and do things like that. If your body is busy, stuck at the temple, then at least, physically is not doing something else somewhere that is more negative. So from that perspective, something is better than nothing. And yes, sometimes, like the mind is so kind of like exhausted, like it cannot like actively cultivate any, good habits, then at least it says rest with the mantra. So yes, some degree of like just Om Mani Padme Hum, not a lot of like, oh, great compassion, all directions, So in comparison, yes, that's okay. That's fine. Do that, But as we do that, don't forget, which is Shantideva's point, like more important is to cultivate the mind, the heart. Then especially for those of us who want to be serious about our practice, then we have to keep moving in the direction of knowing and appreciating that to cultivate the heart, the mind, and specifically to cultivate the two bodhicittas is really what we should be doing.
当然，其实我们非常容易忘记我们真正应该要修持的是什么样的重点。但是另外一个层面来说，其实有比没有好。就是说，至少如果虽然我们没有就是用心在持咒上面，但是至少我们在持咒的当儿，我们并没有用这张嘴巴，然后去可能诅咒别人，或者是去流于讲一些废话之类的。那从这个层面来说，其实它有持咒比没有持咒好，就是至少用这个语的部分是做在处理善的行为，因为有时候我们的心可能会非常的疲惫，然后并没有办法就很积极的去培养善行。那个时候可能就是让我们可以就是安住在持咒这样的一个功夫上面，那比就是让这个嘴巴然后去做一些不好的行为来得更好。那这个是相对来说，但是我们一定不要忘记吉天菩萨的一个提醒，就是说我们所有的一切修持都是为了修这一颗心，而更重要的其实是要培养这两种不同样的菩提心，就是世俗菩提心和圣意菩提心。这个是我们整个修行道上真正要做的事。
So being that, like obviously you know that, I'm Asian, so even though I live in the US longer now than I have lived in Asia, but still, we say the bakchak, like the kind of habit patterns, So this morning, I, as we get ready, set up Zoom, all that, because now we are live streaming, from my house, from the temple, so there's equipment I have to bring back and forth, So anyway, I set up everything. Then I thought, oh, today is this special day. Then I thought, okay, let's share the Gampopa text. Let's share the Bodhicitta. So as we were about to start, then I sat down. Then also I got, my coffee, my drink, everything. Then as I sat down, then I looked over and I saw, my shrine. It's like, I did not fill the water bowls. I did not fill the offerings. And then I'm thinking, oh, on such an auspicious day, I did not do that. So then, we have to start. So we start, then one part of the mind is aware, like, look, you think you got everything done right, like you even forgot, your shrine. So during the break time, then I got up and I go, oh, I should go fill the shrine. Then I'm thinking, oh, wait, I didn't feed the chickens yet. My chickens again. Then I thought, oh, but then today is holiday. Do I have, then I thought, wait, the chickens, they are Buddhas too. Right? Their nature is Buddha. So, on the relative level, their need to be fed is a more pressing need than my water bowls be filled. And those are Buddha by nature and Buddhas to be along the path. So I said, okay, let's go feed the chickens first and see if I have time to fill the bowls before I start the teachings. So these are the ways of like training with the mind. And this is what we mean like training with the mind. To bring more and more awareness into what we are doing. And why we're doing. But without philosophizing, without thinking too hard. Let the teachings kind of illuminate, let the teachings kind of shine into. So it turns out, then I have time, fed the chickens, the future Buddhas, the actual Buddhas came in, filled the water bowls, and then continue on. Yeah.
李博士就分享了刚刚今天就发生的一个趣事就是说其实那个习气就非常的重，因为现在就必须要就在他家，然后还有就是寺院两个地方分别都要去设定这个网上的课程，所以很多东西就搬来搬去。然后他就想到今天是那么殊胜的日子，然后所以就需要想要跟大家分享就是那2篇的译文。然后当他坐下来要开始我们今天的课程的时候，他才想起忘记了就是要去供水，然后忘记了要做一些就是供养的一些动作。所以当我们的整个课程开始的时候，他其中一部分的心就在想说他待会要去就是去供水啊，但是他突然又想起他的鸡还没有喂，在那么殊胜的日子到底应该要先喂鸡还是要先去供水？但是鸡本身也有佛性啊，他们未来也是他们也是未来佛，然后而且在整个世俗的层面来说，其实他们更需要吃东西，比起就是那个水要拿去供佛。那所以从这样的一个层面不断的去调整，怎么让自己的心更加的有觉知，去知道我们应该做什么， 我们为什么而做，而不是充满理论性的去笼罩着我们的整个修持。所以就是透过这样的方式，一点一滴的来修持我们的心。
Judy?
This is along the same lines as chickens, but I have a bird feeder out front, and the birds use it all. I mean, a bird bath out front, and the birds use it all the time. So I'm having to fill it 3 times a day. And so that can be very irritating because I'm getting ready to go out and I see the thing needs filling. So I go back in. But this morning I went out and of course it needed filling. So I took it out, and as I was putting the water in, it suddenly hit me that I was giving water for drinking and water for bathing to the Buddhas. And all of a sudden, my attitude changed. I was having a good time.
Right.
And so I think I will really feel different about doing that, because it makes a huge difference.
Yes.
In your joy or your happiness, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
In doing these mundane daily things.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. If we recognize, this is water for drinking, water for washing, that we are offering to Buddhists. So Jigten Sumgön taught this, he says, if you are able to perceive the Buddha reality of all sentient beings, then no better way to practice superior giving, by giving to those who are in most need, but you perceive them as the Buddhas that they are. Then for those of you who do Jambala practice, even like the putting out the water, even when you're watering plants, when you're putting water out, pouring water out, you can think, this is offered to Jambala so that all beings and their poverty be dispelled. Then it becomes different,
然后刚刚有另外一位同学也分享他相近的一个经验，就是说，那他需要去就是喂他的家的鸟，然后1天3次，然后很多时候当他急着出门的时候，他就会感觉到非常的急躁。然后突然今天早上当他要出门的时候，他在喂他的这个鸟儿的时候，他突然想起，他其实是在供养。就是在布施给这个未来的佛，突然他的态度转变，所以那个愉悦由衷升起。所以当我们能够辨识到我们正在做的事情，我们的对象也就是具有佛性的众生的话，其实没有任何一种方式是比去利益这一切需要帮助的众生，然后把他们视为佛来得更殊胜。然后另外一个例子就是说，当我们在练习就是修习黄财神这样的一种修持的时候，我们就是会倒水，然后当我们把水倒出去的时候，我们就想说，那希望这一些水能够去除一切众生的贫乏。 然后希望一切众生的贫乏都能够被去除，然后透过这样的方式来修我们的心。
Melissa?
Yeah, along these same lines, I wanted to relate something in a book that I've been reading called The Surrender Experiment. The author devotes his life to meditation, and the whole book is about what happens when he decides not to make any decisions in life based on his preferences or aversions. Like he consciously decides to go with whatever shows up and surrender to that. And this was reminding me of that as like kind of an ultimate way to train the mind.
Yeah, so of course, surrender not quite literally, right? Here Shantideva says you don't surrender. I mean, just different vocabulary. I know what you mean, yeah, like whatever turns up, let it be, right? A way to train the mind, so that we don't have to reject. So this is what, like in the higher teachings, they mean like nothing to reject and nothing to accept. But sometimes this is misunderstood. People think like, oh, everything is fine. No. It means whatever turns up, because you know what to do with your mind, then nothing to accept, nothing to reject, right? We don't have to chase after what we like. We don't have to freak out when what we don't like turn up, then it becomes a lot less daunting, I cannot claim to have achieved like Buddha's not being moved, but just a little bit of even applying this principle, at least everything becomes less oppressive.
然后另外一位同学就分享说，他最近看了一本书，然后叫投降，字面上的语词是投降的这样的一个实验，就是说决定不去依据自己的好恶，然后去做任何的选择、任何的决定。然后是一种最究竟调整自己心的方式，但是这个所谓的投降这样的一个词眼，就不是在佛教里面会用的这样的一个语词，但是那个精神其实是类似的啊。你不是就是陈述强调的，就是说，其实就是说，任何在生活中发生的事情，其实都可以用来修我们的这一颗心。我们不需要去拒绝，不需要去抗拒任何一切发生的事物，所以有时候就会有这样的一种表达，就是说不抗拒，然后不接受。但是这样的一种态度，有些人也会误解，就觉得好像非常的消极。其实不是，是当任何一件事情当发生的时候，如果我们知道怎么去调整我们的心，我们就没有必要去拒绝或者是接受，而是就是应用佛陀的这个类似不动这样的一个原则来心不动，不受一切干扰这样的一个原则来面对我们的生活，面对种种的境界。
Other questions or comments?
请问还有问题吗？
Other ideas on how you can apply these teachings, these practices? This is helpful to all of, to everyone. So if not, we will. May?
I
Please.
was just going to say along the lines of what Judy shared, I too have a bird bath, and my hang up is having to clean it. Every time, it seems like every time I turn around, the bird bath is slimy, or there's like mosquito larvae trying to swim in there, and I'm having to clean it. But now, thanks to you, I'll try and take a different perspective. If you're offering water to the Buddhas, then you want your dish to be clean, and you don't want mosquitoes to lay eggs in there. So thank you for sharing that.
刚刚的分享也是针对说，和刚刚的就是怎么去照顾鸟儿的经验有关系，然后就是也会在照顾鸟儿的过程遇到一些困扰，然后就是这位同学就分享说他非常感激刚刚另外这位同学的分享，然后会让他转换他的观念，然后怎么重新去看待他的困扰，然后去调整自己的观念。
Yeah, thank you. So now let's do dedication at the end. So this dedication is also an aspiration.
这回向也是我们的发愿。
In fact, aspiration prayer and dedication prayer, they are two sides of the same coin, especially if it pertains to bodhicitta.
如果是关于菩提心的话，其实回向和发愿它是同一个硬币的两面。
The slight difference is when it is dedication, then what is going on there is saying specifically the good, the merit, the benefit that has been acquired. Now, I dedicate to these purposes.
然后但是两者之间的差别是，回向其实是把我们所累积的善、所累积的功德，我们当下收集了、累积了，然后我们导向这一个究竟的目标。
Aspiration is more about may I, achieve this or that. But in this case, whether it's aspiration or dedication, the more important element is it's the two bodhicittas, relative and ultimate.
而发愿则是说，希望祈愿我能够就是达到这一个，或者是达到那一个。然后在我们这一个回向文里面，其实它最主要的是关于两种不同样的菩提心，也就是殊胜菩提、世俗菩提心和圣意菩提心。
And for those of you who are local to the Asheville area, tomorrow we have a smoke offering practice at the French Broad River Park starting at 10. It will go till about 11 something. We will try to live stream on Facebook, but often the sound is not so good. But if you are local especially, please come and join us. It's outside and all that. It's very nice.
这个是一个预告，就是说，如果任何住在 Asheville 附近的居民，然后明天会有一个就是烟供，然后就是李博士邀请大家去参与。
Changchu sem chorim poche ma ge ba nam ge gyurche ge ba nyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong du pe war sure. Otherwise, see you on Tuesday, the continuation of this series.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
night. Good morning. Ta-ta.
Thank you. Good morning. Good
Enjoy the
evening.
weekend.
Gracias. Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias.